Well, hello, everyone. It is I, Coach K. I am so excited to be able to be hosting this amazing product launch for with the Momentum team. So I have with me Ashley Wilson, who is a co-founder and COO of Momentum, and Ale. I'm going to say your last name. I'm going to say your last name right. Ale, all the time I've worked with you. Oremi.
Yeah, that's right,
Oremi.
coach.
There we go.
Yeah.
And you are the solutions architect for Momentum. Been a few years, and just want to let you guys introduce yourselves. We're going to jump in.
Yeah,
So go ahead,
thank
Ashley.
you so much for hosting this event. We're very excited about our launch today. I'm Ashley, one of the co-founders here and COO. So thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Thanks, coach, for the intro. I'm Alejandro Romi, and I'm a solutions architect here at Momentum.
Awesome. Okay, we're not gonna kill you with slides because this is obviously we are here for a demo to show you this really cool tech. But to give you some context in case you've never seen Momentum before, obviously here's how we're involved. I am an advisor and ambassador. I'm also an ex-customer, so I'm here because I've had experience with both the team and the tech, and want to make sure I can give my 2 cents on some of the things we're doing here, which is pretty fun. So the main problem or challenge a lot of people face, I know this from being in enablement, is that every single day there's conversations through email or calls or what have you between your teams and to customers or prospects. And as a result of that, you have a lot of conversations that are stored somewhere, but not always used, or insights are not able to be tapped into. So this is something everyone uses, either some sort of call library or call recording tool. But the challenge is they sit in the library, and it's hard for people like myself, enablement or product or marketing or sales themselves, to be able to do anything really impactful with that information. So this is a very common problem that kind of comes down to, we historically have relied on humans to be the data source of our information from conversations, because obviously we didn't have any other options. So this is pretty common, where a salesperson will get on a call. You have 8,000 words in an hour, and an average note is 25 words because they have 40 opportunities at a time, back-to-back meetings. They don't have the time to do it. It's not because they're not able or capable, but it's because it's a time matter thing. And even if they did take the time to do it, it means they'd have less time with customer facing activities. So this is obviously a challenge. So the ideal is, when you have a system like Momentum, think about it like a data pipeline, to where you have all these different data points, whether you have a tool like Course or Gong, or you have other things like Zendesk or ZoomInfo. All the information can be transported through Momentum and then arranged in such a way so that your teams can digest it and put it into fields, either into Salesforce, into Snowflake, or into Slack. So that, as an example, you have your summaries and Autopilot happening, which we'll dive into the Autopilot tool today. But I want to show you this because there's so many different things you can do with the tool, which I loved as a customer, from churn signals to upsell signals to product feedback and market feedback, all these kind of things that can happen. And I put these into two buckets, which is one, the data source of CRM, and the other bucket is communication, which usually for most people is Slack. So you can slice and dice the information so that enablement get what they want, rev up get what they want, customer success gets what they want, and the sales reps obviously get all the support they need to do what they need to do by updating all the fields and take that weight off of them of being the data source. So without further ado, that's all for me. I'm going to hand it over to Ashley, kind of go over the history and where we even came from, and kind of dive into the product today.
Yeah, thank you. I love hearing that, your point of view, kind of as an ex-customer, because you got to
Yeah.
experience kind of firsthand what we're going after. So yeah, the launch we're doing today is the Autopilot Suite, and this is kind of building on us just going deep into being an AI native platform. We started building that really right before ChatGPT even launched in October 2022, and started to write into the Salesforce fields from call transcripts. So that was kind of the initial idea, is to say, hey, we could summarize a call, we could write a note, but could we also start to write fields? Last year, we moved into, hey, let's make this fully automatic, so that instead of this being an AI suggested field that the reps have to then still click and say yes, accept, or not, what if we started just becoming like a data pipeline and really doing automatic writing? And this has led us to just keep discovering with our customers what are more use cases we could do around that. And today we really feel like we're sort of completing the story with this end-to-end, CRM field management. So let's dive into kind of what we're specifically launching today. So we've got the Autopilot Classic. So that's what we've had to date, which has been, after a call, push as many fields to Salesforce as you want. You could think of this as, I want to make sure I have a next step for every call, or I want to start tracking the competition. Maybe you want to do what we do in our case, is on every call we ask, what is your call recording tool? that is such a low level but highly important data set for us to capture. But I don't necessarily want my reps to every single time go into Salesforce, click whether you're using Gong or Chorus. It just feels like the perfect use case for AI and automation to work together to push that to Salesforce without my reps needing to go do that extra manual work. So that's kind of Autopilot Classic. What we're adding today is RetroPilot and Batch. So we'll dig in. Let me show you some of those quick slides. So this one I kind of gave you a teaser on.
Yeah,
This
kind
is
of
the
gave this up. Yeah.
classic. This is the classic. We can skip through this one. So
Yeah.
Batch is, we started getting a lot of questions from customers who are saying, hey, I've got all these prior calls that are, I'd love to tap into and update Salesforce with the data. Can I go back and kind of in a batch mode, update Salesforce from hundreds of previous calls? So that's what this does. This is very powerful because you're going to be able to push data from previous calls into Salesforce. And you could think about this as, again, filling in key attributes kind of about your product that you need to capture, key kind of competitive intel that maybe is from previous calls. But you can also do this for things like close loss reasons, which is part of what the demo will be. If we go to the next slide, I'll give you a quick look at the RetroPilot thing that we've launched today, which this one differs from batch mode in that this is done based on Salesforce triggers. So this could be run on a continuous basis based on a stage change in Salesforce. So if you think about every time my deal is closed lost, I want to run RetroPilot on the closed lost reasons. So where batch is done on a one-time kind of manual basis, manual in that you set up the conditions, you tell us the calls, and you click run. This one kind of happens behind the scenes automatically. And again, what we're seeing our customers use this one for is that when a deal is closed lost, let's just do kind of a quick data sweep and just make sure that all of the relevant data is filled in. And we don't have to overwrite what's there. We can append or overwrite. So we give the flexibility to you to decide what's going to work for your team. Yeah, so that's kind of an overview. I think the next step is to have Ali jump into the demo.
Jump in. That's right.
Let me share my screen. All right, there we go. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Amazing. So first of all, here is an opportunity that we have. And if I start scrolling down, you'll see that we have the next steps, all these spiced fields and metric fields, already filled out. And they have been all filled with Momentum's Autopilot. Now, if I go to the Momentum's web app, this web app is intended for the Momentum's admins that will be working on preparing all these automations. It's not for the end user. Usually we configure the automations with the Momentum admin of each of our customers all together. Now, if we go to the Autopilot Suite, we'll see the three versions that Ashley was mentioning, Classic, Batch, and RetroPilot. So starting right now, I'm going to show you how easy it is to configure an Autopilot extraction for the metrics field from the MEDDIC sales methodology. Now, I'm going to search here. As you can see, we have plenty of them already configured. And in this case, I'm going to search for the metrics one, and I'm going to edit it. Now, first thing of all, we map our goals to opportunities and accounts and our leads. So basically, we can suggest a value for any field within those fields and even the related records. So for example, as you can see here, I'm sitting on the opportunity, but I can autopilot any field from the related records as well, even custom objects. But in this case, we're going to stick with metrics. Also, we support text fields, pick lists, and multi-pick lists, so that's not a limitation. Okay, so once we've selected the field that we want to suggest a value for after the call, we need to write a prompt. And as you can see here, and please do not get shocked, the prompt can get pretty complex and large. We already have a library of available prompts and prompt engineers to support you. But the main reason for having such a detailed prompt is that the better the prompt is, the better and more accurate answers we'll be able to provide based on what's happening into the call. Once we define the prompt that will be answering for your field's need, we need to configure how would you like Momentum to actually write the information into Salesforce. So In this case, we've got write if empty. Basically, if the field is empty in Salesforce, we'll be pushing the value automatically. If it's automatic write, we'll be automatically pushing it also. But if the field had information and we select the write if empty, we'll prompt the rep to confirm the new value, and like confirm to write, basically we'll be requesting intervention from the rep to confirm if the suggested value is correct or not. I'm spending a bit more time here because you'll see that Batch and RetroPilot have a similar configuration. After defining the writing configurations, basically, in this case, we can define a filter for in which cases would we like to suggest the value. So as you can see here in the example for metrics is usually a discovery question. So we don't need to suggest a value for the metrics field for renewal opportunities maybe, or for opportunities that are later on the pipeline. So with these filters, we can make more tight in which scenarios are we actually suggesting the values. And finally, because this is a text field in our case, for text fields, we can also define the format output that we like the field to have, which could be a single word, a short paragraph, or even a comprehensive overview. And as Ashley mentioned, if we'd like to append the value to previous values, that's something we can quickly configure from here. And as a quick reminder, the Autopilot Classic will be suggesting the fields after every call is analyzed. Next, if we jump to the configuration of Autopilot Batch, Autopilot Batch, in difference with the Classic, it's triggered on demand. That means that we need to create a new execution, selecting a field as we've done before, like for example, selecting metrics. We'll need to define the prompt that will be answering again to this question, and how would you like to update into Salesforce with the same configuration. But then we'll need to define the time window of calls that we'd like to be analyzing. So for example, here I'm gonna go back and show you the one that I prepared. Okay, in this case, we've selected all calls from the beginning of the year till today. And in this case, we'll need to define a condition for which opportunities, in this case, we'd like to review. In this case, I'm searching for the test opportunities, which are in close lost stage, and that the close date has been this quarter. So basically, we'll be reviewing all opportunities that met this criteria. We'll be reviewing all calls related to those opportunities, and then suggesting, by analyzing all those calls related to the opportunities, we'll be suggesting a single value for, in this case, a close loss reason analysis. And as you can see, if I go back to batch, this hasn't started. I'm gonna hit start now. And now it's running the initial pass. Basically, it'll be reviewing all calls in the backend, and once it has the information, it'll present it here, or if it was configured to automatic write, it'll be pushing the information to Salesforce. But as you can see, this is ad hoc on demand when we need to trigger a batch execution. And finally, I'm gonna jump into RetroPilot, which also, as you can see here, we have multiple RetroPilot execution rules running in the backend. And this is because, as Ashley mentioned, the RetroPilots are not triggered after a call happens, and are not triggered on demand like batch. These are triggers when specific events happen in Salesforce. So I'm gonna jump directly to the close lost reason one again. I'm gonna hit view. And basically, as you can see here, again, at the beginning, we have the same format. We'll need to pick the field, select the prompt, and how we want to write it back to Salesforce. And then we'll need to define when a condition happens, like in this case, it will be when the stage of the opportunity has changed to close lost. At that moment in time, how long do we want to go back and review the calls? So for example, when an opportunity gets moved to close lost, I want to review 2 quarters worth of calls in order for momentum to suggest a value into why did we end up losing this deal. So going back to RetroPilot, you'll see that we have many use cases for this feature. Like for example, also analyzing closed won reasons, preparing an account plan for the CS team when an opportunity gets to closed won, and same for preparing a POC planning session. And I think that's all, Coach.
Cool. They had a couple questions come up. Ashley, you want to talk about the integration thing with Gong or other call recorders real quick?
Yeah, I just saw that. And thanks for calling that out. Probably should have shared that at the beginning if you weren't so familiar with Momentum. So basically, the initial setup with Momentum is installing us in Slack, connecting to Salesforce, and then connecting to your call recording tool. So if it's Gong, Claire Copilot, or Zoom, or Google Meet Native, it doesn't matter to us. We basically can integrate with anything. And once we are integrated, that's basically the signal for us to be able to pull the transcript. So in the demo that Ali was showing, all of that configuration on the setup between the tooling has already happened. And so you are just setting the conditions at that point. And we have customers that are using multiple tools and it's not a problem. They might be using Dialpad for the BDRs. They're using Gong. It's fine to have multiple sources. We will just be connecting differently based on, here's a lot of the ones that we support today. With some that we're building, I will say it's like Zendesk tickets are coming this next quarter. And I know some people are using Zendesk Dialer, starting to use that. So that's something we have on the roadmap as well. But the integration, happens kind of right at the beginning of setting up Momentum. And then from there, we kind of handle the connectivity part of that. So you don't have to think about that.
Right. It's kind of like, at least for us with past Gong users, we had a whole library of stuff, but weren't able to action it or access it unless I, as a human, went and watched it, or had some other way or had a tracker type thing. But even then, I still had to go in and the human was in charge of making sure the data was there. So think about it as like a data infrastructure piece that goes underneath your tools that kind of feed all of your data points you're looking for, which is the best way I can conceptualize it for myself. Is that visual? Hopefully it's a good visual. Next up was what was the chat? Oh, the recording. For all of you who may have joined late or whatever, the recording, we'll kind of do an edited version of this, but this recording on LinkedIn will just kind of live in LinkedIn. So you can use this link to access it again if you need to. And then secondly, the prompts you'll see, and I'll call this out because I want to make sure that if anyone's wondering this, so I can call this out. The Momentum team has built out a library of prompts that can be used. It makes it really easy for you to pick out what kind of information are you wanting to have based on the product. And then they already have the prompts that have been built out so that you don't have to be a prompt engineer to do this. We just need the context of whatever information you're trying to look for so we can make sure it's in the prompt to get relevant information out. So hopefully it makes sense. We just want to make sure it's as easy as possible for you to get the data you're wanting to without having the barrier of having to know how to prompt engineer. So, yep.
Yeah, that's a great point too around if it's MedPick, if it's Spiced, if it's BANT. We have, like, we're partners with Winning by Design. We've got kind of the best practices certified versions of these prompts for these different methodologies. And then again, as Ale showed you on some of the custom prompts that we have for other fields that you just might want to be picking up, we kind of have our best practices. We have our library, and all we're really getting from you is context, and you're adding it to Momentum in our settings too, of like context on company description and competitors, and kind of giving us more of a knowledge base to understand kind of your business. And then we're infusing that with kind of what we're seeing work really well across our whole customer base. And we find that the output is just pretty solid at this point, and pretty superior, I think, to other tools out there.
Yeah. Would you tap in real fast? Because I know data security. Well, so what I've seen online is accuracy, and because you want to trust the outputs, that's one. And then two would be data security. Could you talk about those two?
Yeah, I mean, I think for accuracy, I think everything is a trial and error with AI. I think some things, some of these field extractions are great out of the box, like next steps. As long as your reps are just kind of covering that in a basic conversation, it's pretty easy to pull that out. Sometimes where it gets tricky is, and we've tried to do a lot of work in this area, but it's always a constant improvement, is maybe you get the champion wrong. Maybe you get the economic buyer wrong. Maybe it picks up that the speaker on the call was you as the seller, not you as the buyer. Some of those things happen. And so I think in terms of accuracy, what we like to do is we do kind of test runs of some of these things. And also some companies do end up making additional fields so that we can do a side-by-side comparison. Others pick that confirm to write mode so that they can do a review before they push and move into the full autopilot. And usually after a couple of kind of sessions to just go back and forth and tweak the prompts, we get to a state where folks are ready and comfortable to go to autopilot. I don't know, Ali, if there's anything else you want to add from a kind of CS
No,
perspective, but
that's exactly right. It usually takes us a couple of iterations with the different reps to ensure that the outputs that we're suggesting are okay. We tweak the prompt together, and then once we're sure, move them entirely to autopilot.
Yeah. And then
I
in
can
terms of
say
kind of,
too is,
oh yeah, go ahead.
if I can add one thing to that as an AI crazy person, it takes time to prompt engineering is called engineering because you have to tweak it and fine tune it and get the results you want to. So with any AI tool that gives you the ability to prompt, like it does require tuning. But the nice thing is, I mean, I can selfishly say I've helped with this, but the Momentum team itself, Ollie is a really, really good prompt engineer on his own, and he can help tweak and understand what to get out of the Momentum product. So it's like you have the templates, you have a pro with you, so all you need to say is, "I want to get this output," and we can fine tune it, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, and I think just real quick on kind of security and data. I mean, much of the models that we're using are the latest OpenAI models. We are, a paying enterprise customer of theirs, so none of the data is being fed into their um, training models. And then in terms of just data, kind of storage and data, like we really are kind of pushing the data to the sources that you want it to go to versus us storing a lot of the data ourselves. There is a bit of storing the transcripts for the purpose of using like our Ask Momentum function where you want to go and ask further questions. But we're SOC 2 certified. We work with public companies. So we definitely take that seriously. We have a security engineer on staff as well. And so, yeah, kind of following best practices on that front is super important.
Cool. I'm going to show one more thing because you alluded to it. So I want to make sure I can share this real fast. This came from an actual real call from one of our customers who was testing the human side versus the AI side. So this kind of gives you a good feel of the difference between the two. I posted this a little while ago, but one thing you'll notice is that the information here, the human actually put, this is based on the SPICE methodology, and the human put the wrong information in the wrong fields. So it gives you a good idea of how accurate it can or cannot be. Um, and it just gives so much more detail and context inside of a conversation. So pretty powerful when you're able to compare it side by side of what's happening. And again, I'm not dissing on humans. I know very well how overwhelmed sales reps are with all their other stuff. If they had the time to do this, they would absolutely have really good quality, but they want to close deals. So we want to help them close deals. We want to help CS, know what's going on and have better information. It's just about better speed and efficiency and accuracy. So yeah.
It looks like we have a new question too about kind of custom like fields and drop downs. So I think Ali, when I speak to that, it's just basically asking if we can map to any customized fields and what if we have a drop down? How does that work? And then how does it kind of detect words and assign it to different sales stages?
Yeah, basically, so when we can use Autopilot to suggest field extractions for any type of field, either if it's text, a pick list value, even a multi-pick list or numbers. There's no problem there, and we'll also tweak within the prompt the format of the output of the answer. So that's something that's also possible. And if you have, for example, custom objects related to those main ones being the opportunity leader account, we can also use Autopilot to suggest values for those related records to the main ones.
Vivian, I think you're the one asked that. I hope that makes sure if you can comment real fast for us, let us know if that suffices your question. I want to make sure you feel covered. Invest, I know you just joined. There is going to be the link from LinkedIn, the live itself, but we'll also make a edited version of this, mostly to take out my ums and make sure we have everything ready to go for you. So we'll make sure we send that to you too.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that because the focus of this demo was, of course, on Autopilot and the launch today. But I think what makes Momentum so powerful as a platform is that there's writing into Salesforce fields, there's capturing notes, there's sending signals of important information to your leadership team, to your managers, whether that's forecast risk, big deal risk, customer dissatisfaction, and churn. We have kind of almost a suite of products kind of built into the same sort of building blocks platform so that it all feels like, okay, I'm solving for the CRM problem now. I want to make sure that there's notes, but I keep hearing that my leadership team wants to be notified when X, Y, and Z happens. And my product team has been asking for this feedback, and my CTO would let, and so Momentum becomes sort of we call it an enterprise listening platform because we really see that we're kind of helping these different teams tap into the conversations directly and extract out the information that they care about. So you might start with Autopilot or you might start with summaries, but before you know it, you have a lot of workflows running on Momentum, and we really become sort of the ears and a way to kind of tap into what's happening on the field with your reps and with your CSMs.
Perfect. There's one question from Chris. What does your customers say about how this type of automation? Did you talk about that? I want to make sure we don't miss that. You see that
Yeah,
comment?
yeah. I think a big impact for us is, I mean, data hygiene is just a universal problem, I think, for every single team that we talk to, and just data quality and data quantity. And so we see, self-reporting of customers saying that, 100% increase in data hygiene. And, that's if you have maybe a low bar on kind of expectations around Salesforce field updating. But I think data hygiene is a huge, just a huge measurable kind of ROI that you get from Momentum. Just like, is the data getting in? Do the leaders have the decision making power now because the data is there? And I think importantly too is to think about, as your business changes, you have to start capturing more data and you have to change the data. And that's where, RevOps is often scrambling to go like add new validation rules and add new fields. And that's coming from the business stakeholders requesting new information. I mean, as a founder, we're getting new inputs in, and we go to our RevOps and say, hey, can we start tracking X, Y, and Z? And with a tool like Momentum, it becomes so much faster to get that feedback loop because you're not training reps. You're not having to go add something else to their day, another blocker to them closing the deal. You really empower RevOps to get the data that they need to the leaders without interrupting the reps. So I think that we probably need to figure out what exactly that ROI is, but I know that that's, from a business standpoint, super critical. And I think that's where AI gives you a leg up as an organization. If you really kind of embed it in the workflow, you really see big gains.
Cool. Thank you. Vivian, I'll answer your question. How can you train the AI so it's more accurate? So there's two sides of it. One is the automation and the window of information you're giving from Salesforce. So if you want a certain stage or certain field or whatever case you're trying to narrow down. And then secondly is the prompt itself, because the prompt helps kind of to narrow down the ability of the AI to be trained on what to look for and make sure you get the right output. And then next was the question from Gary. And by the way, let me know if that helps you. And one more thing I'll say is Andrea from Weights and Biases is on this thing and she's commenting. So you could always hit her up too as a customer of Weights and Biases too. Then the next one was from Gary. You shared a graphic where it shows the inputs to Momentum. Do you have a similar graphic for the outputs other than Slack and CRM examples like Clay, digital sales rooms, etc.? So Gary, I want to make sure you're saying, do we have a graphic showing the outputs they can go to? And if so, Ashley, can you tap into like what are the possibilities of outputs that Momentum can send stuff to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that we're at this stage really prioritizing having enough integrations and inputs, and then we'll tackle outputs next. So far, outputs have been, honestly, so many companies are connected their other tools to Salesforce. Like I think about like a Churn Zero. We'll meet a lot of customers that use Churn Zero on the CS side. And once they learn that we can push to Salesforce and just and they already integrating Churn Zero with Salesforce, they're like, oh, okay, great. I can pull that from there. I think in terms of outputs, where I think we'll go in the future, things like Product Board, Notion, Asana, those things come up every once in a while. So we're kind of always deciding when to do that. I think things like digital sales rooms or Clay, I think we'll start to have more of that this next year as we start to see use cases around. I'll give you an example. We've got this executive briefs product that summarizes, hundreds of calls in the weeks to give you signals, and it gives you themes that your customers are coming up with, whether it's objections, competitors. We got asked yesterday by a customer, hey, could we pipe this into a slide deck? Because this is great content for executive leadership team that reviews on. And so it's like, oh yeah, we could, and we already are integrated with the Google Workspace. It's probably not that hard for us to push that to a deck. You can imagine that then going to a digital sales room. So yeah, today it's really the core outputs are, I guess, Google. We probably could add Google Docs to that list. I would say kind of Google Workspace, Slack, Salesforce, and Snowflake. But
cool.
Always looking for more ideas from our customers.
Yeah, there's more, definitely more coming. And I also say, like, and just, Gary, we have used Clay internally as an input to help, enrich the data, which works really, really well with a tool like Momentum. So I know they work well together just from experience, which is kind of fun. We are at time. So Ashley, best way for people to get in touch, obviously, is with you directly or Momentum, or what would you suggest?
Yeah. I'm Ashley at momentum.io. You can find me on LinkedIn. Please reach out, ping us on our book a meeting on our website. So we're reachable for sure. And we really appreciate you all tuning in and learning about us.
Awesome. Okay, y'all, we're at time. Want to say thank you. Appreciate y'all tuning in.
Thanks.
Thanks.